Good morning and welcome. Good afternoon and welcome to a new episode of Empowering Voices. Today we have a very special guest, a very special friend for me, Jonni-Lyn, all the way from Canada. And we will welcome Jonni-Lyn, and we will start our conversation actually with one of my favorite statements, that is unapologetically me. And actually the other way around. And Jonni-Lyn will tell us how this can be applied to her life or to her business. And she will take us through the adventure of her life. Welcome.
And thank you.
Tell us a bit about you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mara, for having me. This is so very special for me too. You're such a dear friend. So my name is Jonni-Lyn Friel, and I right now am in Victoria, BC, on the west coast of Canada. It's an island on the west coast of Canada, and we moved here as a family about 3 years ago from Greece, where
where we
Mara
met,
and I
actually.
met. Yeah, and had little baby boys together and all the trials of being a new mom in a foreign country and all the rest of it, and luckily found each other. So I'm also a yoga teacher. I've been teaching since 2006, and I have a school. It's called Namaha Yoga School that I opened about 5 years ago now. So Unapologetically Me is it's sort of the way I live my life. Well, in births, I guess, because I'm very tall and I used to have blonde hair, and that was a bit noticeable most of the places that I would travel to, but also in Greece. I tend to be very funny and sometimes wild, and so often just that was viewed as too much. And by crazy people, but that's a lot. I heard that a lot in my life, that I was too much, or it was too much. So Unapologetically Me is having the permission that you are not too much. Whoever you are and however you are is perfect. And that you don't need to think or believe people saying that you're too much. I honestly don't even know what that means. So,
anyway,
sometimes
always better than being too little.
Right. And I think honestly what it means is that people are being unapologetically me. It's like they know who they are and they have their boundaries and they know it's okay, and they're not afraid to laugh, and they're not afraid to show their hearts, and they're not afraid to be vulnerable or be open and be honest. And that is what unapologetically me really means for me. So it's sort of it's been really helpful to live by that, and to know that, and to understand that in my life, in all the different parts of my life, but as well as in my business and in my teaching of yoga, because there's a lot of different interpretations, right? There's different styles of yoga, there's different interpretations, because it is also a very personal thing. It's like how we interpret it, right? And this is how we learn it from our teachers, and then this is how we choose to interpret it. So unapologetically me in front of your students when you're teaching means that you're really clear on who you are, and also that you don't put yourself up on a pedestal, and that you're very, like, I don't want to say humble, but very real, as in like, here's the stuff that I've gone through, and this is how yoga's helped me, right?
And actually, this is your attitude. That's why you have so many people all around the world loving you, because it's so important. And yoga is such an intimate discipline, or I don't know how to call it, but it's definitely something that puts together people in a very emotional way. So if you were to put yourself on a pedestal, I wouldn't even call it yoga, to be honest.
Right. And to be fair, a lot of times it isn't the teacher putting themselves on a pedestal. Often it is, it can be, but it's often the students put you on a pedestal because they feel so good in class and they like what you're saying. And then they see this really wonderful version of you when you're teaching. And it's like the best version of me.
Yeah,
But
because you love what you do, of course.
right. And I'm sort of like the teachings are coming through me. So all these magical words come out of my mouth and, but I'm not that all the time at all. Right?
Well,
I'm
as
all,
your friend, I'm on. I mean, I cannot be objective. Sorry, I love you so much that you are always very inspiring and
so,
to be followed.
yeah. Well, I remember one teacher, I forget who it was, but she was like, don't believe your own hype. And I was like, yeah, because it's like, yeah. So you're unapologetically me, as in like, I also am all these other things, right? Like this is one side of me, just like this is one side of you, but I'm also all the other things, right? So, um, and I think that just is what being human is about, is just being unapologetically you and knowing that these pieces can change, but also like it's okay. And that's really what I want my students to know, or people who come to class with me also, is that like, just it's okay. Like you're perfect as you are.
Yeah, and no one has to try and change you or tell you that you are wrong or whatever.
Yeah.
It's actually a choice not to let other people. Unfortunately, not always we feel the strength to face that, but yeah, we should.
Yeah.
Well, the fact that you were in Greece after traveling a lot. I mean, tell me how one day you took your backpack and you decided to explore the world.
Yeah, I just always wanted to travel. Even when I was young and I didn't really, my family traveled a fair bit around Canada, and I lived a couple times in the United States because my dad's a professor, so we did sabbaticals there. Um, but I just wanted to travel. I wanted to go to other places and see how people lived. This was what I wanted to do the most. And I kept trying after university. I kept trying to come back to Canada and to try and like live this life I thought I was supposed to be living, when people were telling me I was supposed to be living. Isn't it time now you came home? And I'm from Newfoundland, so you
Yeah,
never leave
I've been
Newfoundland, right?
there.
Right. Yeah, And I was just like, no, I don't want to.
I have totally different plans, so sorry.
Yes, that is not in my plan at all. Maybe someday, but also, I don't know, you guys don't seem all that happy with what you're doing, so I'm gonna take a chance on what I'm doing. And yeah, and I took my backpack, and back then you could buy a one-way ticket to Europe, and I landed in Germany. I landed in Munich, and that was sort of the beginning of it. And then I would come back to Canada for a bit, and then not. And I lived in Taiwan for a year and taught
Yeah.
English, and I traveled to India a lot. I lived in Greece and worked there, and then would travel again. And so I was sort of that hippie traveler type who would work somewhere long enough to make enough money and then go to the next place.
That's amazing.
And
I think it's a bit, when you talk to people, it is the dream of many people, but not everyone has the courage to do it, because it's not easy. Of course, no one is waiting for you on the other side, not a job or people on the other side. So of course there are ups and downs, but what gives you traveling is priceless. I always think I love traveling, but not as a tourist, because like you, for me was the same. I just wanted to see how other people lived. And okay, I was lucky enough to do it. And in fact, now that we decided to live in England, I feel a bit claustrophobic, but fine. It's another phase, with children, things change, right?
yeah, they sure do. I know. I really resisted moving to Canada. I just thought everything would end, like the adventure was over. I mean, I even lived in Greece for 14 years after all of this
Yeah.
too. So I was like, the adventure's going to end. I'm going to be stuck in one place. It's going to be like in Canada. Like I never had any intention ever since I was young of living in Canada. And my husband is Greek, and he's just very pragmatic, and it's still an economic crisis there, and living through all of this. And then we had a child, and one day I said to him, we have to go to Canada, don't we? And he was like, yeah, we do.
It's time.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, but
time.
that does mean, I mean, I think once you move to Canada, then you realize that it's not the end of anything. I mean, fortunately, we still can choose. Of course, with a family, it's not as easy as to buy a one-way ticket, but still, it's possible. Or
Well,
we need to,
yeah.
when we retire, our children took their way and we start traveling again. Maybe together.
Well, I've found ways to travel.
Yeah, that's true. You find your way. Yeah.
I really have. I'm impressed at my tenacity in that place. And I've been doing teacher trainings, and we left. Like we came to Canada, and then I did a couple of teacher trainings in Greece and in Egypt. So we all left in the summer and went to do that. And I've done that every year, except for this past year, obviously, because of the pandemic.
Of course, for the pandemic. Yeah, but you're right. The retreats were a very good way.
Yeah. So I have found a way.
Everything, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've realized how important it is to me. Like it's a piece of me. And if I don't acknowledge, and I know, so what's the other thing that's hard about it is that it's, there's this sort of story, I think, this ingrained story we have as women and mothers, that you're supposed to, or I do, can't speak for everybody else, that you're supposed to sacrifice everything for your children and for your family. Yeah. Right. And I've tried that, and I just end up angry and depressed and resenting it. And because there's that piece of myself that needs, that unapologetically me piece of me needs also to be cared for, so that I can show up as a good mom and a good partner and a good everything, all these other roles in my life. But if I don't take care of that part, like she's angry and she's upset and she's sad. So I've gone away for a month and like left my husband and my kid, with his grandparents, and and that's hard, because I'm apart, and my son was like 5 at the time, and I went for a month to Egypt. But it's also hard because there's that piece of me and that story and that person inside of me saying, you can't do that. Like that's going to harm your child, and what, you're a terrible mother, and how can you do that? And then there's other piece of me going like, I need to breathe. If I don't do this, like this feeds me, this will feed me too, right? For like, it's also, I love what I do, but because I love what I do, and this will like fill me up so that I'm okay and I'm full to offer for the next year. Yeah. So it's going against the grain, which is always a bit of a challenge.
And I think in any culture, in any time, we have it. Then we decide if we take the leap and we change that story, or we stay in there for all our life. And I learned this the hard way, I have to say, this year with the first lockdown, because we were forced to be all together. That doesn't mean, I mean, I love my children, I love my husband, of course, but to be 24 hours a day together and not to have space for me to create became terrible. So my cup was full of resentment and frustration, but still I was the one, okay, I have to cook, the victim all the time. The second I realized that I had to set boundaries, to have that cup full of love, and because I finally had time to be in my space, in my time, everything changed. And it's, of course, in all the negatives of the pandemic, I have to say, I found this very positive teaching that we all should consider at some point, especially as women.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you if you have a statement, a quote that supports your life, your core values, your why.
I don't know if I have a statement. I have a couple things that I sort of remember, like that bring me back. So like my values, really, I have the values sort of this month, or the values right now is fun, the things that are important to me. So when I make decisions, or if I'm going to do something, or if I'm going to look at a new project or teaching or opening a studio or whatever, I go back to these and see, because this is what's important to me. So the values are fun, freedom, daring, and like flow. So there's that feeling of ease, that I'm not always pushing against something, it doesn't work, and it's like stepping back and seeing what flows.
Yeah, a bit trusting the process.
Trusting the process.
Push it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Too hard.
That's it. And then my sort of what I've through coaching, and I've done some coaching too, and what I've figured out, or what my main things there is, to gather the women. This is what I'm here to do. I'm here to gather the women.
Yeah.
And I'm not exactly sure how to do this. I do this through yoga now, and then I'm going to start with women groups and retreats and things like that specifically for this, but also to live on the fringes, which is what I've always done, but now verbalizing it, I'm like, yes, that's what I want to do. I don't want to be in the mainstream. I want to live on the fringes. And then also to lead by example. And that's, yeah.
Knowing you, these three things are already there.
Yeah.
You don't see them very clearly yet, but
no,
I can see them, and they will take their shape when it's the right moment. I'm sure.
I think so.
Thanks a lot for this conversation. Of course, it's always a pleasure. I was missing you a lot.
Me too.
Thank you very much for being with us. I just remind you that all Jonni-Lyn contacts will be in the post in my bio and on my website, together with the recordings of this video. I leave you now, and I give you appointment for the next week. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.